I'm still going through some of the material, so take this for what you will, grain of salt, or state of affairs currently. So, what is happening? Well, the news is out. There will be new movies based on Lord of the Rings from Warner Brothers. It's still a little confusing how this is happening. The short story is the Embracer Group, whoever they are, basically these investors took the rights from the Sal Corporation. And the Sal Corporation, long story short, is how we got Lord of the Rings as films for many years because they bought it originally from Tolkien. So this is all coming from the Tolkien deal made back who knows when in the 60s and 70s, and the way it's been shaped and mutated and given to different entities. So apparently they do have the legal authorization to make new films, and they intend to do it. But again, to be fair, at this point we only know at this point Warner Brothers wants to make new films. Whether they will actually do it, unclear. However, the scary part is they are saying they're not going to just repeat the Peter Jackson films, which you could argue is fair because just due to legal issues, maybe they can't replicate the production style. They don't want to pay him any money. Could be a lot of reasons for that. But the quotations seem to hint that the real reason, of course, is they're going to try to create a kind of MCU out of the film rights they do have. Now, is this a good idea or a bad idea? Well, again, what exactly are they up to? We're not clear. We only have a little bit of data here. It's not even an official announcement at this point. It's just they're talking about it. But if you know where Warner Brothers is financially, they've had huge success with Telu and House of the Dragon, but otherwise they've been struggling. They aren't losing that much money, but they're not making that much money either with the DCU and with other projects. Like, I love Dune, and I've supported Dune, but Dune did only okay numbers at the box office. It is really Warner Brothers' fault, but it is what it is, and Legendary is no longer working with the WB, and that plays into this because Legendary was putting up a lot of the money. So they're starving for money, and if you looked at the James Gunn situation and him trying to launch a new DCU, it's not clear how much they can really devote to these projects. And a lot of these projects are television products because they don't have the money. Even if, in principle, they do want a cinematic universe from Tolkien, they don't really have the resources at this point to do it. Nevertheless, worst case scenario, we are probably talking 12, 13 films. So if they're not really sticking to the original trilogy, what would they be doing? Well, I can only guess they'll probably do solo projects based on Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, Bilbo, Frodo. You go through the Sauron. They're just going to pump the films up with these minor or major characters, try to build things from the very small bits of lore that are even in Lord of the Rings. Because again, a lot of things are alluded to in the trilogy, but they only make sense with the other stories. They don't have access to the rights to those stories because of Amazon. So it's going to be a very weird, truncated kind of cinematic universe. And I think at this point, Amazon does own The Hobbit. It's unclear how much they can do with the prequel stuff. So presumably, these films, in principle, will be leading up to the trilogy. So I'm guessing they're going to do 2 to 3 films, then do Fellowship, then 2 films, then Towers, and you keep going. So in total, it'll probably be like 12 films. Though I'm guessing if they make money, they'll keep bloating out the content and maybe make as many as 20 films. Well, the good news and bad news about this is it is a finite amount. They can't go beyond a certain amount. And because Amazon has bought the rights to at least a lot of Lord of the Rings, including, I think, the main text. So this is kind of confusing. I would assume because they're a television entity, they can do what they do. But this is the film rights. There's going to be some crossover eventually. There presumably are other film rights all over the place. It's a little confusing. And what do I think of this as a Tolkien expert? Well, clearly Tolkien never imagined this, and I don't know if there's enough material, even if they had really good talent to support a cinematic universe. And it seems Peter Jackson will be signing off on this because they said that they're being consulted. So all else equal, Peter Jackson will be a part of this. I don't think he's going to be the head monkey. I don't think that's what's going to happen. They're probably going to hire a James Gunn figure. That will be the architect of the cinematic universe, but Peter Jackson will just show up at the premieres and do propaganda and say, I love it. This is exactly my vision. If only I had the money and time and power. Well, given his record with The Hobbit, clearly we're not going to get the books. We're just going to get little bits and pieces of the lore. It'll be like the MCU. They're just going to use little bits and pieces from the comics, but basically just create their own universe for their own purpose. I don't know. If you're a Fidelity nut and want the books, that's not probably going to happen. On the other hand, given the MCU record, I assume a handful of these projects, if they ever do get realized, will be actually good. But a lot of this stuff, yeah, it just seems like bloated content, and they're just going to cash out Tolkien. At the end of the day, will this be good or bad? We'll have to see. Amazon is still processing Rings of Power. We have to see season 2 and where that story is going to develop. But good or bad, whatever you want to say about Amazon, they did take the time and effort to at least craft some of the content to look spectacular. You may not like the stories, but at least it looks really good from an angle of costumes, settings, and even the special effects, which were only bad in a few shots, and even that was maybe due to COVID. With this stuff, though, given Warner Brothers' track record, yeah, it's probably going to be a very, very shaky ride up ahead for at least some part of the Tolkien fandom.